Hello, and welcome to The Woven Word. This is a series of programmes in which we think about some poets who flourished in Ulster a couple of centuries ago, ordinary working class people whose poetry really shines a light on what it was like just to live in Ulster at that time. They belong to a body known collectively as the Weaver Poets, or the Rhyming Weavers, and many of them worked in the linen industry. The area that we're in today, Banbridge, just outside Banbridge, in the heart of County Down, this was very much at the heart of linen production, and today's poet was indeed a weaver. His name is Joseph Carson, the Bard of Kilpike. Kilpike is where we are now. Nowadays it's known as Seapatrick. Before we hear more about Joseph Carson, let me just tell you that this series has been filmed in 360 degrees. That means that you can look all around you. If you're at home with your computer and mouse, move it around a bit and you'll see that you can look left and look right, and look up and down, look behind you, or if you've got a VR headset, pop that on and it'll be like you're right here with me in this old burial ground. We're surrounded by higgledy-piggledy headstones. The ones just behind you date from the 1700s. There's Mr Thompson's broken stone in the ground. He was born in the 1600s and died in 1718. They're all around us here, these old stones and the beautiful Irish yew trees, the walls of an ancient church which would have been known to Joseph Carson, who lived here. This church was standing when he lived here in the 1800s. We don't know exactly when he was born, probably around 1800, probably lived sometime maybe to the 60s or the 70s, but what we do know about him, we know from his book, which was called Poems, Odes, Songs and Satires, and which was published in Newry in 1831. What I like best about this book is the preface, in which Joseph Carson addresses the audience. He talks about how much he enjoys reading a preface himself to books, getting that little bit more personal insight into the poems and into the author. And so he gives us this lovely introduction to himself. He also starts his poetry, his collection, with a quote from Robert Burns, and I think this says it all. He obviously loved Robert Burns. He quotes him quite a few times in the book, and he uses his airs for his songs. He includes the quotes, as I say, and in the same way that Robert Burns addressed to haggis, he'll address tea. Influences there, but wait till you hear this little quotation, which he uses at the very front of his book. "If there's a hole in a' your coats, I read ye tent it. A chiel's a man ye takin' notes, and faith, he'll print it." In other words, if there's something wrong with you, you better deal with it, because somebody's going to be out there observing it and letting other people know. And this is what Joseph Carson does in his collection. It's social commentary. It's biting observation of what is going on amongst the people all around him. Why? He also tells us a little bit about himself. He said he had no formal education beyond the age of 10, apart from a few weeks later on when he was a married man. It was really a lady called Mrs Alexander McCall who took him under her wing, was almost like a mentor, and taught him to read. And thanks to her, he got access to the books of the Banbridge Reading Society. The first thing that Joseph Carson ever had printed was a poem that he wrote when Mrs McCall died, and he sent that into the local paper. He had to get someone else to write it for him at the time because he was lacking in confidence, but he was so gratified to see that in print, and that must have spurred him on to more and more writing. He worked as a weaver in the linen industry, a damask weaver, initially working in his own cottage and then later moving to work in a factory. And in a lot of his poems, he talks about how tough the conditions are, how long the days, how poor the pay. And he has a wife, a beloved wife, Bessie or Elizabeth, and 3 daughters that he has to support. So the hours are long, but he just keeps at it. The time when he was living, the 1800s, was a period of some religious issues, shall we say, across Ireland. The established church, the Church of Ireland, were kind of, you would say in many ways, the tail wagging the dog, and Joseph Carson was a Catholic. There's a line in one of his poems which kind of sums up the oppression felt by the Catholics and some of the Presbyterians as well at that time. He says, "With rents and tithes they heap on taxes to keep us poor, to crush and vex us." And this was very much how he felt. So he talks about religious issues, he talks about life, he writes epistles to people, he does addresses to King George VI, for example, and to Daniel O'Connell. He writes epitaphs, he writes epigrams, he writes pastoral poetry. For example, he's been reading the poetry of James Hogg, who was the Ettrick shepherd over in Scotland, praising the Scottish landscape. And Joseph Carson says, yeah, Scotland's lovely, but look what we have here. Here we are in the beautiful Bann Valley. We have landscapes every bit comparable. In fact, if you look behind you, you'll see where those trees are. The River Bann is just coursing along there, the beautiful River Bann that Joseph Carson knew so well. He also uses his poetry to really condemn the hypocrisy of the evangelical proselytizers who go out there trying to force their religion onto other people. He thinks that this is not just morally wrong, but it's also counterproductive. He despises hypocrisy, and he also thinks a lot about the gulf between the rich and the poor. My friend John Erskine is going to read you a poem now. It's an epistle to another poet, a man called Hugh McCall. And in this poem, Joseph Carson is addressing him, saying, you're another poet. We should have been writing to each other before now. He is talking about the joys of friendship, of having a good wife, and of poetry. He also talks about the importance of just keeping your head down and working. But he uses this address to kind of begin thinking about how the wealthy people who've made their wealth on the working classes really get fat with their eating, get big red noses from their drinking, but ultimately they all lie in the clay side by side with other poor people. It's a very grounding kind of a poem, this. As John Erskine reads it, the words will appear on the screen, and I want you to look out for some of the lovely Ulster-Scots words and phrases. For example, a canty blade is a pleasant person. Lang syne means long ago. Mead, M-E-E-D, that's a reward. Taimons is 12 months, a year. Twa Taimons, he's been married to Bessie for 2 years. Brose is porridge, and claves are clothes. He needs to feed and clothe his children. Fash is concern. If you're not fashed, you're not concerned about a thing. So listen out for these words. As I said, you'll see them appearing on the screen, but if you're watching this at home on YouTube, click to expand the description, and you'll jump forward to a section where, as you hear the words being read, you can enjoy 360-degree photography taken all around this beautiful part of Banbridge in County Down that was so beloved of the Bard of Kilpike, Joseph Carson. I hope you've enjoyed that wee introduction to him.
Epistle to Mr Hugh McCall, a brother poet, by Joseph Carson. Lord man, I think it devilish queer we've bardies been this mony a year, baith bustling on in life's career, unknown to other, and neither wrote a line to cheer his rhyming brother. Had I but known my canty blade, ye plied sae weel their rhyming trade, I would hae some but sang conveyed to thee lang syne, ere friendship's lamp was quite decayed, dear licht divine. My dearest mead, through life's dull scene, as just a social trusty freen, a damned seat and canker clean, that winna fail me, then neither carp and care nor spleen dor e'er assail me. Wi' such a friend, the muse and wife, I'll battle the ills o' life, nor dread misfortune's twa-edged knife, nor frowns uncivil, but brew distorting care and strife, kick tae the devil. Twa tomans round old time has carried, since my sweet Bess and I were married, and faith, my lad, we've often parried misfortune's sword, but still our love has never varied to fell discord. Indulgent heaven has deigned to bless us, and croon our love wi' 3 wee lasses, for health and beauty nane surpasses the lovely dears. They're sweeter than the primrose glasses o' twilight's tears. To hide them weel in brose and clays, I cheerful ply the toiling sleighs. Frae morn till nicht the shuttle plays, for that's the doom blind fate ordained me, a' my days, the damask loom. A fortune, while life's current runs, just keeps me free frae debts and duns. I winna fash, because she shuns and keeps me poor. Nor will I grudge wealth's sordid sons their guidance store. The dearest blessings o' mankind are no to rank and wealth confined. The cottage wicht and labouring hind fu oft enjoy them, while lords to rank and riches joined as oft destroy them. Poor, cowled, unfeeling lumps of clay, they'll tak the lee side of the brae, to watch the wicht wi' hoffets grey and banes a' crazy, that toils the livelong winter day to keep them aisy. I envy not their drunken dozes, their muckle punch and big blay noses. When death the carlin o'er them closes, their kindred clay, the wretched cotter, there reposes as sound as they. When life's lang toilsome day is o'er, the question, were ye rich or poor, will no be asked on death's far shore to us poor mortals, ere mercy opes the narrow door, heaven's shining portals. But I maun quit my rhyme and caper, 'tis a' but loose asleep and paper. Lord, how Ulrice's lads would vapour if this they seen. Besides, my flickering rosin taper has bleared my een. When least ye gang to Mount Parnassus, to ca your ain frae mang the lasses, as soon as e'er the nag Pegasus ye sit your arse on, just right that time may gaily pass us, to Joseph Carson. Epistle to Mr Hugh McCall, a brother poet, by Joseph Carson. Lord man, I think it devilish queer, we've bardies been this mony a year, baith bustling on in life's career, unknown to other, and neither wrote a line to cheer his rhyming brother. Had I but known my canty blade, ye plied sae weel the rhyming trade, I would hae some but sang conveyed to thee lang syne, ere friendship's lamp was quite decayed, dear licht divine. My dearest mead, through life's dull scene, as just a social trusty freen, a damned deceit and canker clean, that winna fail me, then neither carpent care nor spleen dor e'er assail me. Wi such a friend, the muse and wife, I'll battle the ills o' life, nor dread misfortune's twa-edged knife, nor frowns uncivil, but brew distorting care and strife, kick tae the devil. Twa tomans round old time has carried, since my sweet Bess and I were married. And faith, my lad, we've often parried misfortune's sword, but still our love has never varied to fell discord. Indulgent heaven has deigned to bless us, and croon our love with 3 wee lasses, for health and beauty nane surpasses the lovely dears. They're sweeter than the primrose glasses o' twilight's tears. To hide them weel in brose and clays, I cheerfu' ply the toiling sleighs. Frae morn till nicht the shuttle plays, for that's the doom blind fate ordained me, a' my days, the damask loom. A fortune, while life's current runs, just keeps me free frae debts and duns, I winna fash, because she shuns and keeps me poor, nor will I grudge wealth's sordid sons their guidance store. The dearest blessings o' mankind are no to rank and wealth confined. The cottage wicht and labouring hind fu oft enjoy them, while lords to rank and riches joined as oft destroy them. Poor, cowled, unfeeling lumps of clay, they'll tack the lee side of the brae, to watch the wicht wi' hoffets grey and banes are crazy, that toils the livelong winter day to keep them aisy. I envy not their drunken dozes, their muckle punch and big blay noses. When death the carlin o'er them closes, their kindred clay, the wretched cotter, there reposes as soon as they. When life's lang toilsome day is o'er, the question, were ye rich or poor, will no be asked on death's far shore to us poor mortals, ere mercy opes the narrow door, heaven's shining portals. But I mun quit my rhyming caper, 'tis a' but loose asleep and paper. Lord, how Ulrike's lads would vapour if this they seen. Besides, my flickering rosin taper has bleared my een. When least ye gang to Mount Parnassus, to ca your ain frae mang the lasses, as soon as e'er the nag Pegasus, ye sit your arse on, just right that time may gaily pass us, to Joseph Carson.